What's up? I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it and give this video a like.
Podcast below in the description. Check that out as well.
Also, check out our sponsor, wineaccess.com/ham. Get you 20% off some of the best wines in the world with a satisfaction guarantee.
It's easy. You just go to wineaccess.com/ham. 20% off. You can order individual bottles. You can order several bottles. You can join some of their clubs. Ton of options. Go check it out on us. 20% off. wineaccess.com/ham.
Just got to be 21 or over. All right, let's get to the content. Michael Lombardi, who has been through this process like pro Mac Jones is going to be the pick, has backed off that a little bit, but this is what he said about Justin Fields. He's not going number 3. If it's not Mac Jones, it's Trey Lance. So that's Michael Lombardi's take. Like going back, and I went back and just looked at some of Lombardi's older takes on this subject. Middlecoff, he said initially he thought it was going to be Mac Jones. Several weeks ago, he said, I talked to 2 head coaches. They say it's going to be Mac Jones. Part of that was that his logic partly was that Kyle was not at Trey Lance's first pro day. So I think maybe that's kind of changed. Perhaps that's one of the things that has changed this. But Justin Fields is not the pick at 3, says Michael Lombardi.
Well, Hayden Middlecoff, we were, at least I believed, or was convinced within probably 2 weeks ago, Trey Lance was going to be the pick at 3.
Yeah.
And then we just talked it out more. The pro day happens. Joel Klatt comes on our podcast. I'm like, I actually think it's going to be Justin Fields. But this is where scouting, like once you have the feel in your gut, you got to write it down. You got to stick with it. A lot of teams in the fall, they lock your grade. So when you say a guy's a second-round pick or when you say the guy's a high-end starter, you can't change that around pro days. You can add another report, but your original report's in there. And I think it's hard. You get influenced. You know why? Because we're humans and we all get influenced by shit. You can't say insulated to like, I didn't hear the talk. Well, unless you like, it's hard not to hear the talk. So I kind of got influenced by thinking it. But now maybe it hasn't been Justin Fields the whole time. If they take Trey Lance at 3, I will believe to my core, and maybe they'll admit this after, when they made the pick, they had done the research on the guys. Mike Shanahan had also probably done the research. And they had come to consensus. They loved Trey Lance at 3, and they knew he wouldn't sniff getting there at 12. And they didn't want to risk being able to get up to 6, 7, and he was going to be there. But that would show, like, that would be pretty nuts, right? If it's not Mac Jones and it's Trey Lance and they pass on Justin Fields, that their evaluation back in February when they did their projects, right? When they got everyone together, everyone independently went, and Kyle ultimately felt comfortable telling John and Parag to go make a powerful trade to get up so we can go get Trey Lance. That'd be a crazy story. Like I think that would be one of the craziest lead up to all their acquisitions in the history of the Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch tenure. That would be the biggest moment. That would be insane. I'm not saying in a bad or good way. That would just be crazy, wouldn't it?
It would not be viewed as crazy as if they draft Mac, but it actually is, right? Because Mac is like this. It's about what we think Mac is going to be versus what we think Trey is going to be. But in terms of what we know they are and what they have done right now, it's you could argue it takes more foresight. Now, maybe the counter would be, no, it doesn't. Just look at the guy. Like, forget about college production. Who cares about Heisman voting? Like, just watch this guy. He didn't throw an interception. He played at North Dakota State. They produce pros. Look at his body. Look how much football he's really played. Look how much they ask him to do in the offense. Look how much Niner stuff he runs. Like, it's not that crazy of a projection.
No.
This is how you talk yourself into Trey Lance. We've had these conversations.
There's no talking yourself into. Guy, Louis Riddick and DJ they've both gone on record saying they would take Trey Lance over Justin Fields. Those guys worked in the league.
But my point is there is so much here that makes it easy to connect Trey Lance as the pick for the 49ers. Here's one question. We can go back and forth on this.
Not the reality doesn't necessarily. Like the media hype tells you Justin Fields, and I'm part of it. You're part of it. Like tells you he's. But, like, that doesn't mean the teams feel that.
But I think there are people that have been on the Trey Lance prediction. Like Chris Biederman, who covers the Niners, predicted Trey Lance. No.
Well, my point is the reason that I'd say it's universal if you just ask a random fan, like, I want Justin Fields. It's because of the hype machine that is the draft lead up to the hype machine. And the program he plays at.
How much you've seen him.
He's a high-end prospect. Yeah. It's the I was talking to Gottlieb last week. It's the NCAA tournament impact on. It's much easier to tell your owner at pick 4 to the dude that just took his team to the Final Four than it is the Euro guy, right?
Yeah. Also, he is. You look at his number. I just think if you didn't hear anything from anybody, and I just said watch some Justin Fields, look at his numbers, you'd go, oh my God, like this is pretty impressive.
Well, if I just put 2 elite prospects, let's just say they're equals as elite prospects. Who are the ones the fans gonna know? The dude at Ohio State or the guy that plays D1 AA, right? I mean, it's just a no-brainer. If they had if I told you Trey Lance had played at Oklahoma, and Justin Fields was just Justin Fields, maybe it was like it could be completely flipped. Be like, I fucking love Trey Lance. I watched him take down Oklahoma State. I remember watching the Red River, and he put Tom Herman on the streets. Like, we would have so much more information. Not a soul, including me and you, who consume more football than probably 99% of people, even definitely college football, never saw him play a live snap. And we're in the 1%. Imagine just the casual guy who can just say, well, at least I saw Justin Fields play those 2 playoff games, right? That's powerful.
Yeah, and I've been hearing about him for 2 years.
It's irrelevant to the teams.
So here's the other thing about whether or not they knew it was Lance. You could argue, well, they didn't know. Once they knew it was real, that's when John Beck started working with them. Or you could argue, yes, they did know this is the guy they wanted, and that's why they sent John Beck to go work with them, because they knew OTA. They needed John Beck to be on this guy, getting him Niners level instruction long before they drafted him, because they need him to have a little bit of a runway, because they know his preparation this year is going to be just weird. It's going to be slow, no OTAs, all this stuff, right? So is John Beck preparing him for the Niners, or is John Beck getting recon for the Niners?
Yeah, if Trey Lance is the pick for the 49ers at pick number 3, his betting on himself to pass up going to Minnesota, who, listen, it's not like some powerhouse, but they've actually been pretty good, right? They have PJ Fleck. They've been a top 25 program. His belief, and they play in the Big Ten. I mean, they're playing Michigan, Ohio State, Nebraska, Wisconsin. Like, their schedule's unreal. No one, not a soul, would have been like, God, Trey Lance, all of his friends growing up, like, I get it, bro. You just went there, played a different position. You went to Power 5, Big Ten. Your team's competing to play in like a BCS bowl, right? They've been like that competitive the last couple of years. No, but he bet on himself, and he went to D1 AA. If he gets picked at 3, ultimately it led to Kyle Shanahan trading 3 first-round picks to get him. That's one of the greatest I bet on myself stories I can ever remember.
It's why I said that's
like, an extreme bet on yourself, right? Power 5,
absolutely.
There.
And it's why I said to Klatt, like, talking about Fields wanting to get the Big Ten to play football, that's like, he gets the credit for that, and that's legit. But he's not the only one who we should view as like, this guy clearly wants it based on what we've seen him do because of everything you just said.
Well, that was a thing they really hammered home in the draft ESPN special I watched, was like how much it meant to him to play quarterback. They show some of these high school highlights, and they're like, it was weird. Just none of the big programs thought he could play quarterback. And Trey Lance is like, yeah, I mean, just – and then clearly they go to the North Dakota State head coach, like, yeah, we believed.
You know? Hell yeah. They'd seen it.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying about Tebow.
But, and that happens sometimes. Like, for every Trey Lance, there are other guys that end up at a Cal Poly, a UC Davis, a McNeese State, or whoever, these D1 AA programs, that go there to play quarterback because they're like, listen, I would have loved to play at, UCF or North Carolina, but I believed I was a quarterback. They thought I would have had to play linebacker, and I didn't want to do it.
Right.
He's not alone, right?
Right. Just most guys don't turn into 3rd overall picks, is your point, or 4th or 5th or whatever. Wherever it is that he goes, that's not the norm.
I think they all. You're right. Justin Fields has it. Mac Jones has it. Like, in a day and age when everyone taps out and leaves programs, when he showed up, Jalen Hurts and Tua were there. He stuck it out. This guy stuck it out. That's where I think Trevor Lawrence's comments, why he had to walk it back. Like, someone DM'd me the other day. I'm like, I think this quarterback class, like, I think these guys, the teams feel pretty good about all these guys' intangibles. Like, you're not going to start play me? Like, I'll go to Ohio State and be the starting quarterback. Like, I'm not transferring, because if I'm at Alabama, easily I could transfer to, like, minimums, the Fresno States, the UCFs to be their quarterback, right? Then Trey Lance, I have to go here. I think you go in this and all the boxes that Trent Baalke used to talk about getting checked. You're like, wait, Trevor Lawrence, the best one, isn't all in? That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
You better walk that back.
Yeah. Can we talk about Lombardi for a second on how adamant he is on the Niners aren't taking Fields. Here's if he's saying that, who does he talk to? A lot of people in the league.
And coaches and
right. Like like we can pull up times that he's been wrong. People are doing it. He was wrong about this. He said they were backing off of Kyler Murray in Arizona. So I think you and I, there are enough credible people who have said Mac Jones to the Niners have said that we might look back and go, they take Mac Jones and we go, God, I mean, Daniel Jeremiah and Adam Schefter and right on and on and on and on and on. Like,
yeah, he worked with Belichick for like the last 3 years. Like
if he's saying that there are people, I believe, based on this, there are people in other draft rooms that think the Niners are taking Mac Jones. There are people in other draft rooms that think the Niners are absolutely not taking Justin Fields, right? There are people in draft rooms that think the Niners are taking Trey Lance. I don't know which ones of them are right, but
it's not out of the realm possibility that either Bill or Josh told Mike Lombardi this, that I don't believe that we feel adamant they're not taking Justin Fields.
Right.
Easily could have came from New England, a place where he won 2 Super Bowl rings this decade.
And a place last decade. I do think probably exchanges information with the Niners when it's beneficial to both of them with a trust level that, it won't be shared with other teams.
I think that Kyle and Bill are probably in a weird way, like their friendship might be like an underrated NFL connection that people don't quite talk about because they would never tell you about. Because remember Sean McVay during the Super Bowl had said like me and Bill became really good friends. It became a big deal. And I saw him on something like kind of had to apologize. Like I kind of made it seem different. I just reached out to him once. Kyle's not like, because Sean just became this public persona and everyone was talking and writing about it. Kyle's not into that stuff, right? I mean, there weren't many like deep dives on Kyle when they were going to the Super Bowl. Like he doesn't really let many people in.
Well, I remember talking to a college
basketball
coach.
Bill probably loved. I bet that's why Bill likes him a lot. They're probably in a weird way very similar.
I think there is a lot of similarity. Bill's the son of a coach, right? Bill's dad was a coach.
Yeah, at Army or Navy. Then he became coach / scout.
His dad.
Yeah.
I remember I talked to a college basketball coach a couple years ago. He had gotten a big job. One of his former assistants had taken over another job, and they did something that was newsworthy from a scouting standpoint. It was like a big story. And the coach who had left, who was the bigger coach, I was like, hey, did you see, let's just say I was talking to you're the big coach, John. And I said, hey, did you see what your former assistant did? Like, he's getting a lot of attention for it. And his response was like, yeah, he kind of laughed. He's like, yeah, I mean, I don't know why you would tell anybody about it. Because they had sneakily done something. They had, from a scouting perspective, had cracked kind of a code. And a big story got written. And his thing was like, why would you, congrats on cracking the code, but why would you tell somebody, why would you tell everybody the code you figured out? And I think Kyle is kind of in that same vein. Like the beauty with him is, from his standpoint, and this is where it helps him, other coaches who aren't Shanahan might need some help from the media getting their name out there. Kyle never had to. Kyle never needed anybody's help to get his name out there. He never had to call up the beat writer and say, hey, man, let's talk about some of the stuff I did. I'll give you some quotes off the record. You can make me look good. Like, he never had to do any of that stuff. He's never – and Bill doesn't like playing the game. And this goes back to what I was saying about Kyle and just being around Mike and being around the whole machine. Kyle's never had to play that game. He's never had to.
No.
And I'm sure coaches –
he does not need the media.
And coaches who've been grinding for 30 years and think that should have been their shot are probably pissed about it. Yeah. But he hasn't had to. That's just – it's been one – ultimately it all works because he's a good football coach, but he hasn't had to play that game.
Yeah. I mean, do you think Hugh Jackson is the same?
Has Hugh signed on with Eddie George yet? No?
No.
By the way, okay, let's just establish this. We'll end this conversation, this part of this conversation with this. I can say pretty comfortably right now, I think whatever they do on draft night will feel big. None of these three things at this point, I can't be shocked by anything they do at this point.
As of April 18th recording this, who are you leaning toward?
So I was Trey Lance, and then we talked to Klatt. It was Fields. Lance feels kind of crazy, but I'm leaning Lance on April 18th. How about you?
Yeah, I would lean with my original prediction, Lance. Yeah,